Just 2 weeks before the first new Dune movie was released in 2021, I also came across Frank Herbert's book. I quickly read through it and was so hyped for the movie release that I really wanted to recreate a desert in Unreal Engine 4. So I experimented with the landscape add-on in Blender and fiddled around until it looked like dunes. I baked a height map of this object and it looked like this. A height map is an image that stores height information. Light areas are high and dark areas are low. This could be quickly transferred to the Unreal Engine 4, and after a few tricks I had a desert. I also made the texture in Blender and then overlaid it in the final material in the Unreal Engine so that the texture repetition is better hidden. It doesn't look like this.
Uh-oh.
Quite nice. Then it was time for wind effects and footproofs. Because what would a desert be without kicking up sand when you walk through it? And by the way, all textures and 3D models you're going to see were made by me back then. A few sounds and a thick monolith later, the result was as follows. Then an idea for a game was born. Liyah. Let's talk about the plot. The game was meant to be a third-person action-adventure. Our young warrior Liyah was sent out by her tribe to take the trials of the monolith. It is said that it could bring back the water that has disappeared from the land from year to year. It hasn't rained for ages either, so Liyah sets off into the desert. We actually wanted to show that she first picks up her bow and opens the gate by shooting a mechanism. We've now removed that. The castle in which she starts should show the remains of the battle in which others tried to get through the monolith. The main quest. Liyah's task is to collect the 4 orbs that the monolith demands. They are distributed across the 4 corners of the map, and each one has a test. Orb 1 is the giant tree. It's more like a classic trap. When you walk around, you first don't have any clue where the orb could be. But then you maybe notice it just hangs on a branch, and you have to shoot it with your bow down like an apple from the tree. When this happens and you collect it, the entry of the area gets locked, and you have to survive some enemy waves. After that, you can pass, go back to the desert. Orb 2 was more like a sandstorm we wanted to create, and there would be intervals where you can hide between certain objects to get protection from the storm. Orb 3 is also kind of a trap where you just walk through this mist and then you fall down into a cave system. After some enemy encounters, there's an elevator which brings you up to a sandwalker nest. There you have some intense fights until you get the orb. And the last one is my favorite, I guess. You make your way through a maze, and once you got to the end and grabbed the orb, the maze is changing some walls and it's not the same way back. So then additionally sandwalkers arrive and they will spawn endlessly until you make it out of the maze. Once you've done all this, a path to the portal at the top is activated. There you can reach a tricky platforming passage. Behind the portal is a kind of final boss with all the stolen water. Well, it looks good, but it wasn't thought through the end. The gameplay mechanics are the following. Liyah can run, hop and jump and sprint. which she uses to move around and solve platform passages like this one here at the pillars, which is the entry of the maze. We also have a bow and arrow combat, but very immature. And she's supposed to have a life bar, which is also thirst. Water is only available on these magical fountains. The corpse of the corresponding mage lies here, well, just lying around with no sense. Are there other characters? Yes, this fox, for example. Liyah finds him at the beginning of her journey. She should actually be able to heal him and use him to travel faster through the desert. We also thought of some fine enemies like this Sandwalker Golem, which comes in several subtypes, which are faster than others, for example, or have more life. Flying and stationary, but firing variants were actually also planned. Actually quite cool with the egg. Oh, and we made a main menu with moving camera and scene. Also quite cool, I guess. So time for the conclusion. Why did we scrape this project? Well, at this time I was 1 year into game dev and just discovered Unreal Engine. A typical mistake is to start with the art without a concept and solid game mechanics that make your game fun. Imagine working on your 3D and 2D assets for weeks and then suddenly realizing that the concept doesn't fit in. As a rule, everything you see and hear should be adapted to the game design and not the other way around. A good example of design first and create later is the combat system that we bought sometime later after we had built the levels. We should have developed the system ourselves and adapt the level design to the combat system. That would have been the right direction. So it is now that in many corners you have either too much or too little space to fight with the bow, and the combat system actually offers no USP, and that's quite critical because gameplay is the most important thing in a game. Also, if you don't stick to concept and keep adding stuff all the time, you're not going to finish. The scope becomes too big, and in this case, my programmer couldn't keep up. Totally my fault as artist and future hobby game designer. As a result, it may look like something, but there's hardly any technical basis, and apart from the purchased bow and arrow combat template, there's nothing in the game that makes the gameplay anything like real fun or stand out. Hence a stop. Still, it's not all bad. It was really fun and you got a lot of your blind jump of game development. Definitely an experience worth making. It was exactly the right stop at the right time. Otherwise, we would still be redeveloping the thing today. Instead, we used the time to make a small 2D platformer, which is called Relic Hunter, with all hand-drawn assets, and a 3D demo with 3 levels of a sci-fi speedrunner game in a post-apocalyptic setting. It's called Project Courier. Check both out if you want. You can just go to our HIO page. It's free and feedback is really appreciated. So thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye bye.